Well, welcome again to the scientific 7 steps of the scientific method and your 5th grade science fair project. Today we're going to be talking about what everybody's interested in, and that's getting to our experiment and doing our experiment. We've done all the previous work and all the prep work to get to this experiment. Now it's time to carry it out. You can see in this slide, John, he's going to write out his procedure for his experiment along with the materials list, and those are the two things that are required to you. He has both of these checked by his teacher where she can check for any safety concerns. Again, we're not going to be making a journal, that's why I kind of skipped over that, but you will need a procedure list and a materials list, what we're going to do and how we're going to do it. Then have your parents, it doesn't have to be your teacher that checks it over, but have your parents check over your experiment, what your ideas are, to see if there are any safety concerns. Obviously, John has some safety concerns because he's going to be baking bread, and the oven would be a safety concern. So we want to make sure that you have the correct supervision, whether it's a mom, in this case maybe John's having his grandma help him, somebody to help you in case there are these safety concerns, and that you do have somebody supervising you. So we're going to move on then. And to our trials. Now again, we talked about this before. Again, in your experiment, each thing that you're going to do, you're going to test it 3 times. So each independent variable that you have should be tested at least 3 times. Okay, so he's going to test each of his sugar variables 3 times, and in the same conditions, the same constants, the same things all the time throughout each of them. So when we collect and analyze our results, then we've done our experiment, we've got all of the information, we're ready to collect our results and put them together and look at them and see what did we come up with. So John made a table. You might make a graph, a line graph, a bar graph, pie graph, a chart of some kind. John, for his information, made a chart, and his chart looked like this. So here's his chart for his baked bread. So you can see he did trial sizes, okay, and he did 1, 2, 3 trials. Now, just like we should be doing 3 trials, and he did them for each of his sugar amounts. So here's his 25 grams of sugar, 50 grams of sugar, 100 grams of sugar, 250 grams of sugar, and 500 grams of sugar. Now all the information in black on here is when he weighed them out, was the average size in centimeters squared when he measured them. And on the top you can see he measured them length times width times height. Okay, and he gets that in centimeters cubed, or he's finding the volume of them. So when we're looking at this, you can see right away that there are some bigger numbers. So when I'm looking at these bigger numbers, I'm looking at first in the 50, we've got a pretty big number here. And then we've got that same number right here. So now we're looking around, and if you look closely, you can see that there are some things that are a little bit concerning about this, because even though those 2 numbers are the biggest, if we look at this number and this number, they're the same. So he got, even though there was 100 grams of sugar and 50 grams of sugar, 2 of the numbers were actually the same. So that's a little concerning, because even though there's that big amount, 50 grams of sugar, we did get the same size loaf of bread. However, if we do look, the 50 is the best. So if we look over here, the average is the best at the 50 grams of sugar. So we could say with this that 50 grams would be the best to use. So when you look at, I'm going to clear that. When you look at his results then, okay, and as he analyzed it, he analyzes his data and noticed that his control worked the best. So his hypothesis then, thinking back to his hypothesis, was if I put more sugar, the amount of sugar is increased, then the bread should rise higher. Okay, well, that didn't happen, because when he increased that amount of sugar down to 100, it didn't significantly increase the size of the bread. The best was the 50, and that's probably why his grandmother uses that one. So you come here and we say the best experiment, but not significantly better than 100, because they did have that one that was the same. We talked about these 2, how they are the same. So it wasn't significantly better. So we have to come up with a conclusion then, with what our data tells us to do. So when we look at our conclusion, John has to reject his hypothesis. But he decided to retest using sugar amounts between 50 and 100 grams. So his conclusion is that my hypothesis was incorrect. Increasing the amount of sugar in bread does not increase the size of the bread or the amount of the bread. So, but when he rejects this, he does a very important thing here. He says, you know what? I think I'm going to retest it because of that closeness between those two 50 and 100 grams that we showed you. So he's going to do this experiment again and only test numbers between 50 and 100. So his conclusion, even though we could end it with our experiment right here, we could end it and say that conclusion, that would be okay, but he decided he's going to go on. So, and then he would just retest. So that's one way to do it. You could end right here and come up with your conclusion and then get your display boards ready. So what I would like you to do is, for your homework, is basically to start your experiments. You're ready to go now. You can do your experiments at home. If you have questions, I want you to be able to come back in. When you come back in from class, or for class the next couple times, we're actually going to be doing experiments in the classroom. So it's going to be some fun times, some hands-on times that we're going to be doing in the next couple class periods. So we're going to be doing our experiments. You should be doing your experiments at home. And hopefully between them, we'll get a good understanding of how this process is going to work. Okay, so enjoy and have, and hopefully your experiments work really well.